record
You
this on
leave
my
it.
computer. Okay, hey everybody, welcome, 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 and thank you so much for taking your time to join me on this. I think you guys are going to get so much out of this because this is not going to be your typical pick a low calorie version of your favorite Thanksgiving, Christmas thing. This is going to be some real life stuff that you can use, and I guarantee some of the stuff you've probably maybe have never heard from anybody. And so just to start a little bit about me. So I'm Margie Clegg, not Margie Savetti. That was my old name. I am Margie Clegg, and I am a health, fitness, and mindset coach. I'm really into the mindset side of things because, and you know what? I'm actually going to change my camera here too. So bear with me for 2 seconds because the other one sits a little higher. And we're going to move over. We're going to move over to this one. There we go. This one just sits a little higher and it's a little more clear. So health, fitness, but I'm really into the mindset part of things because here's the thing. Most people can lose weight and pretty successfully. We do things like keto, we do things like Weight Watchers, we do things like macros, and we can be pretty darn successful at losing the weight. And where everything goes to hell, excuse my language, is when we try to maintain. Because here's the thing, losing weight, as hard as it is, it's actually the easy part. It's the keeping it off that's hard. Because one of the biggest flaws in diet industry, whatever you want to call it, is that we don't prepare you, well, everybody else. I work on trying to prepare you. We don't prepare you for what's after, right? Because 9 times out of 10, when somebody goes on a diet, we're always like looking forward to getting off of it and going back to quote normal, when normal is actually the thing that got us there in the first place. So I operate a little bit different. We start to look at food different ways. I'm very informal. I'm going to talk from a cheat sheet just because it makes my life easier. And I've got a bazillion things going on this week and I don't want to forget anything. But the holiday season is also known as weight gain season. The majority of weight gained by a person is from now, actually Halloween, until the end of the year. So entering weight gain season, but I'm not one of those coaches who is going to tell you don't enjoy certain things, don't eat the cookies, just find a lower fat version of things, because that it doesn't work. It gets us into this binge restrict pattern. And if you don't know what that is, we get on a restrictive diet and we get freaking tired of it. And so we go overboard to the other side. So that's why our weight does this thing over the course of time, which actually is shooting ourselves in the foot down the line, because there are consequences to dieting. One of those consequences is that every time you diet, you lose a bit of your metabolism that you're probably not going to get back. So the goal would be to lose weight in a sustainable manner, if indeed that is your goal, so that you're not hurting your system that much. But I will say, here's where I'm going to differ a little bit. There is tremendous value in the bonding over food during the holiday season. Bonding and connecting with family traditions. I know I love to make this cornbread sourdough stuffing. I make it from scratch, except for the sourdough, but I'll make the cornbread from scratch. I'll buy a good loaf of sourdough bread, and it's got the butter, it's got the things, it's got everything. It is kind of, it was passed down from my grandmother Sherman. That was my dad's side of the family. And it's something I kind of ran with. And Thanksgiving would not be Thanksgiving if I could not have that in it. I'm not going to give it up, and it's going to be there. But it is it's special. It's a tradition. It's a family signature dish. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's generic, what we can have year round versus what are these things that we only get to have at this time of year. So we're going to talk about intuitive eating, what that is, what that kind of looks like during the holidays, developing a better relationship with food. We're going to talk about this thing called a reverse diet, where actually the strategy is to increase your calories this time of year. So you actually work in your holiday meals into it, but it also involves a little bit of these things behind me, which is why I'm in my gym. It involves a bit of strength training in a certain way to go with it. And a little bit about strategic fasting. It's an advanced strategy. I'm going to touch on it a bit at the end, but it can be very beneficial around the holidays. But it is an advanced strategy. And if you have any kind of binge restrict, any kind of poor relationship with foods, it can go south really fast. So it's one of those, you got to really be honest with yourself. Is this something you can do? So I want to start off with the first trick that is going to be probably something you've never heard when it comes to dieting. So I am wearing my bodybuilding team shirt. You might be wondering, why is this woman wearing her bodybuilding team shirt? So there is this social scientist. His name is Arthur Brooks, and he actually studies happiness. I love his work. I've been reading a lot of his books lately, and as I've suffered from depression and such, anybody who studies happiness is probably pretty high on my radar. And he was talking one time about he's a Catholic, but he went and did this lecture at BYU, which is a Mormon school in at Brigham Young, I guess Utah. I'm guessing Utah. So they gave him this briefcase to carry around, and he started carrying this briefcase around. And this strange thing started to happen. When he was carrying the briefcase, he was a little kinder to people. He was a little nicer. He started to embody the qualities of somebody you would imagine carrying a BYU briefcase. There is actually science behind wearing the logo, wearing something that represents something you admire, something that gives you good values. So a bodybuilder, I always wear team gear when I fly, because a bodybuilder will never get on a plane and drink, act like an asshole. You know, we're just very kind people, not going to go for all the snacks and everything. It's a strange trick psychology to play on yourself. So say you're a football player, maybe you play, maybe you have certain values you have with your team. So there's something to wearing the identity of somebody you want to be. Now, I was going to wear my Supergirl costume today. I thought that'd be a little bit much. So we went with bodybuilder. But so it's just a little hack. If you're going to a party, or if you know you're going to be traveling, if you have something that you can wear that's meaningful, that actually associates with the values you want to aspire to, wear something that reminds you of that and reminds the people around you of that, because it's amazing. It's a really good trick that works. So that is my first kind of out of the box hack that I wanted to share with you. Told you this is going to be a little different. Holidays. This is 5 pounds of fat. This is pretty much the equivalent of what 5 pounds of fat looks like on the body. As you can see, it's as big as my head. But when it's distributed throughout the body, it's there, but we don't notice it quite so much because it is distributed throughout the body. So the media, the diet industry, they're all going to tell you, and you'll probably hear news stories about it from here to the end of the year. They're going to tell you you're going to gain anywhere from 5, I've heard as low as 1, the one, I'll come back to that in a second, 1 to 15 pounds over the holiday season. Now, is that fat? Is it all fat? No, the majority of it is really water weight, because here's the thing. We get on a scale, your weight is never the same every single day, and it shouldn't be. We're not steady state, we're not rocks. We're not steady state humans. We have hormones, stress, what time we ate last night, the type of food we ate last night, all these little, how much water we drank yesterday, how much water we didn't drink yesterday, all this stuff can affect that little number on the scale the next morning. That's why you'll get a lot of proponents of low carb diets. And all that is it's taking water out of these beautiful things called muscles. So when you eat a carbohydrate, what it does, I'm not going to get into all the science of it, just to make it really simple. When you eat a carbohydrate, so let's say gummy bears are like a really pure carbohydrate. You eat something like that and you eat a lot of them in one day, you're probably likely to see your scale go up 1 or 2 pounds the next day. It's not fat. It provided you didn't just go off the rails. It's water, and it's water your muscles like, because our muscles are like sponges. And so a sponge without water is very light. Throw it across the room. A sponge that's wet, you could still throw it across the room, but it's gonna be wet. So that's how muscles work. So that's why you'll see people go on a low carb diet and they'll drop all this weight really fast, and then all of a sudden they're kind of like this. They just lost their water weight. They didn't get into a calorie deficit. And what a calorie deficit is, and this is the only way you lose weight. It's the law of thermodynamics. It's the law of science. It's the law of life. You have to eat less calories than what your body needs to lose weight. Doesn't matter how you do it. It really doesn't. You can really pick the diet of your choice, but it all comes down to eating less than what your body needs. Now, that's different for everybody. It's really an individual thing. I eat a very high carb, very low fat diet because I thrive on it. Anybody with any kind of mood disorders, anything like depression, PTSD, things like that, are going to do much better on a high carb diet, because it's our mind food, it's our energy food, and it's good for getting the energy for muscle building. So just know that I'm a diet atheist. I don't care what diet you do, as long as you have a reasonable explanation for why you want to do it. And taking off the weight in the fastest manner possible is not a good reason. So you really kind of need to resonate and think about, is this something I'm going to be doing 5, 10, 20 years down the line? Maybe not to the degree that you do it when you're losing the weight, but you want to do it in a manner that you like. If you love carbs, keto is an awful option. If you don't like the carbs and you like the fats, then a high carb diet is an awful option. Intermittent fasting. If I like to eat every few hours, I just do better that way. If you're somebody who can go all day and you don't, you're busy, you're on the go, you don't miss the food during the day, it's a good option. If you like that lunch and breakfast, it's a horrible option, because you're not going to sustain it, right? So that's really the key to that. So getting into things, we're going to talk about the tremendous value of food. So like I said, I'm not going to be the one who tells you if you like your wine. I would never tell anybody to give up their wine, their cornbread stuffing, whatever their family traditions are. That's not how I roll, because I believe we can incorporate our favorite foods into everything. The key is, how do we incorporate it into everything? And that's what I'm going to talk about here. How many of us go into the holiday? Is anybody, hands raised if you're on camera, is anybody kind of dreading the holidays, thinking, oh God, here we go, I'm gonna put on weight? I see smiles. I don't see any hands, but I think a lot of us, although we love the holidays, there's a part of us that's kind of like, oh God, it's coming, it's coming. And so because we actually go into it thinking, I'm gonna binge, I'm gonna go crazy. And you know, instead of eating just one of those little pecan pie things, we're like, I'm gonna eat 10 because mom only makes it one time a year. I better get it now. You know, we kind of have this, I better get it now. But here's the thing, a good relationship with food, it's one that just goes beyond the actual food. It goes about the experience you're having with your family, your friends, and connecting with people over the holidays. I think a lot of us kind of lose sight that that is the actual true spirit of the holiday, is to spend time with friends and family and to actually enjoy some of these foods that we really don't get but once a year. And I'm going to tell you a couple strategies in a bit on how you can even enjoy them more and even like pick out flavors and stuff. But food has a total value. Of course, there's the nutritional value. And I think to be successful in the long run, it's really important to know what you're eating. I personally think macro tracking is the fastest way to learn what's in your food, because you don't track necessarily, it's a different way of tracking calories. What you're doing is you're tracking your protein, your carbs, your fats within the food, and you really start to learn food, I think, really fast. The problem is it can be kind of difficult to execute because you got to be willing to track everything. There's some weighing that goes along with it. It's a kind of an advanced way of looking at food. I love it. I'm an engineer by trade. I'm mathematical. I I just love learning. I like knowing what's going in my body. But I've only had like two clients successfully do it out of many, many, many. So eh, I'd say it's more advanced and it takes a lot more work and it's kind of difficult to execute. But if you really want to learn about food really fast, and it's not something you need to do forever, if you did it for a month, you would have a good handle on what a portion size is on everything. But it's time consuming in the beginning. You got to learn tracking apps and things like that. And there's other ways you can track food, but no, there's the nutritional value of food, but there's also the celebratory aspect of food, and that is just sitting around enjoying. For my birthday, we got some cakes and stuff at night for our dessert, and there was this amazing. It was a chocolate cake, but it was kind of light. And it was just incredible, and it was just nice and fun to be able to sit there with Randy and just enjoy it, because it's not something I do on a normal basis. So there's the celebratory aspect. There's also, you know, maybe your grandmother made something super amazing and it brings back a fond memory. I would never ask, nor should any coach ever tell anybody to try to find the calorie alternative of it, because you're kind of stealing somebody's memory away from them and taking away something very fond. But, you know, we tread that line of what's too much. Are we going to go overboard with it? And that's where the savoring and the mindfulness gets into it coming up. Then we get our friends who like to overeat and overdrink because they don't like their families. They don't want to be there. Oh my God, is this going to be over? When can I get this over with? So you got those people too. It's more of so they overeat and overdrink to numb themselves going into things, as opposed to thinking, well, maybe I can just connect with I can tolerate this person. I'll just connect with this person and ignore the rest. So you got a little bit of that going on, which brings me to mindset. So I think a really good tip, and this is kind of one of those out there ones you may never have heard before, is when you're going to a family dinner, a thing with friends, any type of event that you're apprehensive about, drunk Uncle Joe. You just know he's gonna be drunk and start the politics. Is to kind of go into it with your people in mind. Who who am I going to, for lack of a better word, who am I going to latch on to? And try to find out as much as you can about what's going on in their life. We've gotten so self-interested, we've lost interest in other people. It's so funny because I spend a lot of time messaging people on Facebook. I've learned so much. I've learned camera skills. I've learned about players' moms in the NFL and how they get their seats, where they get the seats. And when they're on the road, it's better to get them outside of the team because they give the opposing team really bad seats in the NFL. Just because I go out and ask people, hey, what's going on? I always wondered we brace ourselves because we're like, oh, this person's trying to sell me something. And they're just like, oh, I think it's really cool. Your son's playing in the NFL. Tell me about that. What's it like? We've lost interest in other people because we're so interested in ourselves. So pick somebody, one or two people that, maybe you don't see them, but 1, 2, 3 times a year, and actually learn about them. You'd be shocked at what people will tell you if you just ask. It's really amazing, and it builds these really cool bonds. And next thing you know, people will be sending you apps for how to take pictures of the sky with your iPhone so you can catch Starlink going across the sky. I mean, it's just amazing what people know and what they'll share. So instead of thinking, how the hell am I going to get through this? Pick your person, pick your people, and learn something about somebody. You'd be shocked how much people appreciate it when you actually ask about them. I'd be surprised. I'm always shocked because I'll talk to people and nobody asks anything about me. They're like, they'll tell me everything. So it's just a really funny observation, and just something you'll probably make somebody's day, asking about what they're doing, how they're feeling. And it's going to help you when you have connection. When we feel connection, it actually spikes the endorphins up here, and it helps to counteract that urge to want to overeat and overdrink, because nobody wants to walk away from the kitchen table feeling like we have to unzip the pants, waking up the next morning with a headache of regret, wondering especially if you're an overdrinker, oh God, what did I say the night before? It just sets you up for a better time and actually a better feeling overall. So let's talk about honing in on those signature dishes versus the generic. So this is, in other words, this is choosing great over good. So the signature dishes are the things like grandma's stuffing, or the way somebody makes their sweet potato casserole, or just those things that you don't normally get. Here's where most of us go wrong on the holidays, and it just feeds into a cycle, is we spend our time chowing down on the generic shit too. The chips and dip. Somebody has out the ranch dressing dip and potato chips, the bowl of M&Ms, and though they look festive, you can get M&Ms year round. So really kind of think about, is this something really special? Is this really, do I really want to spend my energy, my calories, my whatever on the bag of Lay's and the bowl of ranch dip that you can get any day of the week? Now, if it's a special dip somebody makes, like I remember somebody once made this amazing homemade blooming onion dip. I mean, she roasted the onions. It was amazing. That's something special. That's not something I'm going to make. It's something that's going to be there. So kind of try to separate out the generic everyday stuff from the truly special stuff and really savor it. And what I mean by savoring is actually taking a bite and not thinking about getting the next bite, but actually savoring it and trying to figure out the flavors. It's amazing the difference, and you'll be like, oh, I never realized that there was time in that, or something like that. And really somebody said the magic count is to do 32 chews. That just seems obscenely excessive. But you know, take the time to chew your food, because here's what's unmindful eating. This is not mindful eating. Eating and thinking about, when am I going to get the next bite in my mouth? That's emotional stress, or just eating for the sake of eating. You know, you're sitting there and you're drinking your wine, you have one sip in, you haven't even, and you're thinking about getting the next one in, you haven't even gotten the first one down. So that's not mindful. So play a little game with yourself, that you're going to try to pick out some flavors, and really decide, is this where I want to put my money? Is this where I want to put my fuel, my energy? So my takeaway from that is to be present. Now I'm going to give you a couple mechanical tips. These are like your real life tips. I give these kind of year round, but this is an eating strategy. This is an eating strategy for when you're eating at dinner and you're afraid you're going to go overboard. And that it's to use the palm of your hand. You know, your protein is the size of your palm. And I'm just going to stick with protein. We can figure out the rest. Maybe I'll do another one of these Zooms. Eat your protein first. Because protein is very satisfying. It makes you feel fuller than most foods. So a good strategy is to eat your protein. This is kind of how I eat these days, just naturally, just because I've done it for so long. Eat your protein and your veggies first. Now, I'm not talking about veggies covered in cheddar cheese and butter, but if there's some decent, you know, somewhat healthy veggies there, focus on your proteins and veggies first, then get to your other things, because it takes 20 minutes from your stomach to tell this thing up here that it's full. So if you start with some of these foods that make you feel fuller longer, they tend to have, so it actually takes us energy to eat food. Believe it or not, we burn calories digesting food. So things like your protein and your vegetables, you're gonna spend more calories eating that. So that's another kind of bonus with it, as opposed to like carbs and fats. So they say like protein, we only end up using like 70% of the calories in protein, and then it's, don't quote me on these numbers. Carbs, we end up using like 90%, and fats like 97% that we use. So there's like 30% of the calories out of your proteins that's actually going to digest, and only like 3% of your fats are going to digestive process. So it's just kind of, it's not huge. So don't quit eating your fats and carbs. We need those too. But protein does go a long way for that. And it's a little teeny bump, but it's a bump nonetheless. So yeah, so start with so that's my quick little mechanical tip. And in your veggies, you're going to get the micronutrients. I'm going to give you a little strategy for how to savor. I talked about that. And one good way to do that is in the week leading up to Thanksgiving, try to focus on primarily whole foods. And you know, something is a whole food if it's a single ingredient. If it flew, it grew, it ran, or it swam. That is a whole food. So if it flew, your chicken, your turkey, swam is obviously fish. Ran can be, you know, anything on land, your cows and things like that. And then grew is any animal. And then your vegetables and things like rice, it's a grain, you know, but a single ingredient. So you don't need to be a purist that it's, you know, it can be, if it's a single ingredient and it came like it's canned tomatoes and it says tomatoes and salt's okay. You know, tomatoes and salt is the only ingredients in it. Count that as a whole food. So here's what this does. When we eat a bunch of processed foods, that'd be your protein bars, anything in your Cheerios, Randy loves Love Crunch, candy bars, ice cream, things like that that are heavily processed, that they have, when you look at the ingredients, they have these long labels with a bunch of stuff on, some of the stuff you can't read. So food companies make this to make us like them, right? So actually it alters our taste buds and it makes us want more. If you're my age, you might remember the old Lay's commercials. I bet you can't eat just one Lay's. It's true. They design them to do that. They actually design these foods to be palatable. They hire all kinds of food scientists to make us like these food and want more of them. That's why it's really hard once you start down the bag of Lay's. It's hard to take 5 out and put it up and be done with it. So when you start to take these foods out of your diet and you put them back in, you start to taste a little bit more than you would have. So it's a really good way, if you want to practice savoring your food on Thanksgiving, is to do mostly whole foods leading up to it. There's an added bonus. So don't do it as a diet, but when you focus on more whole foods and you haven't been, there's going to be some natural weight loss that comes with it, just because it's really hard to get your calories up. If you're used to eating processed foods, it's really hard to equate it with just whole foods. So it's just kind of a little trick to play on your mind and body so that you can actually enjoy your Thanksgiving treats even more, because you'll appreciate the flavor more, because you won't be so accustomed to a lot of these things. Yeah. And the other thing it's going to do is your digestion. So I eat pretty much whole foods just year round. You don't have to. I'm a bodybuilder. I train and eat like a bodybuilder. My entire life revolves about getting more of this stuff. That everything revolves around that. Period. You all should not and do not have to do that. So because a lot of times I want to eat what you eat, and I'm like, no, you don't, because as soon as I tell, you really don't, and you don't need to. Just my little advertisement to not be a bodybuilder. So yeah, it's going to help you save your flavors, and you'll probably lose a little bit of weight. You're probably going to lose a little bit of water weight, because all those artificial ingredients in there inflame the body. And inflammation is basically water we retain. Let's talk about the reverse diet. So here's what a reverse diet is in general. It's a slow boosting of your calories from where you are, in the hopes that it's going to boost your metabolism. So it's a little tricky thing to navigate. So if you don't want to track calories, the best way to probably do this would be to add in a little extra protein, kind of stay away from the fats and the carbs with it, but add in a little extra protein snack, maybe like an extra 100 calories a day. I'm not talking about a lot here. You would do this slowly over time, and we combine this with weightlifting, which I'm going to get to. And the strategy with our reverse diet is we want to, especially if you've been dieting, if you're dieting right now and you want to enjoy Thanksgiving, this is like the perfect time to kind of start inching those calories. So it's not like a boom when you get to Thanksgiving, but we're adding small amounts of calories over the course of time, and we're adding in strength training. In the theory, the hope is that when you add in the strength training with it, we're partitioning the extra calories to muscle versus fat. Now, truth, you're going to get some fat along with it, especially if you overshoot the calorie, but that is the strategy behind it. So now we're going to start getting into the lifting part of it and the exercise part of it. So the strategy change, if you've been lifting, and I know some of you have, but if you've been lifting all year, say, and I'm doing this with a couple of clients, we changed the strategy this year, and I am too. This time of year, we focus on strength. And it's a different way of training. It's a little lower rep, it's a little heavier lifting. So we focus on strength, because what you want to do is you want to use those extra calories to start to build some muscle. Now, truth be told, if you are not lifting, you can lift whatever, you can pretty much lift whatever, you could even do body weight. You can lift in any kind of range, as long as it's a pretty strategic program. Anything over nothing is going to help you build muscle. So if you haven't been lifting, what you would do is just count in your Thanksgiving dinner and all these things. You may not even want to increase your calories from where you are. You can just incorporate those meals and say, I'm going to use this to help fuel me to build some muscle. So, and so you start to work toward doing personal records. I'm going to use the term PR going forward, but you start to focus on PRs instead of worrying about the extra 2 to 5 pounds you're going to get overnight from Thanksgiving, which is water, by the way. Reminder, it's water. It's water. It's not fat. Very little of it's really going to be fat. Instead of focusing on that, focus on going to the gym the next day, or if you have weights at home, focus on lifting the next day and use those calories using good form. Don't be a crazy idiot and go, lift more than what is reality, but use those extra calories to increase your personal records, to increase your strength. It's a very effective strategy when done properly, and using an appropriate program. Here's what's not an appropriate program: going and scrolling Instagram for the workout of the day from some influencer who is basically a bikini competitor, and she is showing off something that's very effective to build the underside of the butt. None of you need to be doing those. You need to be doing simple things like squats, any kind of hinge movement, lunges, rows are very good, things like that. And if you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to me. I can help you with that. But you want to be doing compound movements. They give you the bang for your buck. You just want to be doing things that actually work. You don't need, if you're not squatting, you don't need to be working on the underside of your butt. That comes after years of lifting. And trust me, I do enough underbutt stuff when I'm in season. It gets boring. It's very tedious. It's the same thing over and over and over. Now, so the hopes is we boost your metabolism. Well, if you build muscle, you're going to boost your metabolism. I think my calories are like 2,300 or something right now, which I'm 55 years old. It's very high. I get to eat a lot more than most people, just simply because last DEXA scan, I was 68 pounds of muscle. I'm 125, so I'm over half muscle. So I like it. It allows me to eat. It bulletproofs the body. It's a very protective tissue. That's another talk. I'll get into that another day. But yeah, so anytime you put on more muscle, you get to eat more. And who doesn't want to eat more? Who doesn't love to get to put an extra serving or have a little bit more of something on their plate? I've had one person who told me she did not like food and she was 50 pounds overweight. I did not believe her. I did not. I did not. She told me I don't eat because I don't like food. I'm like, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I've never met somebody who really doesn't like food. If you're sick or something, you may not like food that day, but as a general, we all love food. We need food. You got to have food to live. So as a side note, notice I did not say anything about long bouts of cardio. Nothing. What do we want to do when we overeat? We want to get out there and run. We want to get out there and walk. Walking is very good. So I do encourage the walking, but we want to go cardio off everything. A little cautionary tale: if you do take up your lifting. So I thought it was a great idea on my birthday to just randomly run a 10K. I did, start to finish. I just ran a 10K. I got the kibosh as soon as from my coaches to cut that out immediately. My legs shrunk a bit just from that little bout. I think it was a little bit more than that, but I was moving and swimming and doing a lot of things. But so if you're trying to build muscle, don't be doing hours of cardio, because you're going to put yourself right back at square one. But I did think it was very cool that I just randomly ran a 10K on my birthday. I just woke up. I said, "That's my birthday. I'm going to run 10K." I came back and told me I ran a 10K. He's like, "What?" "Oh yeah, I just ran a 10K." He goes, "You don't run." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But that's kind of what bodybuilding and the next thing, or not bodybuilding, weightlifting. That's what weightlifting and the next thing, walking, will do for you. Walking is the best exercise in the world. If I could only do one exercise the rest of my life, it would be walking. Anybody who tells you it's not enough, that it's not exercise, that it doesn't do anything, you just, well, don't whack them. But if you do, don't say I said to do it. But seriously, it is available to everybody. It's the best exercise in the world. It's good for up here. It's good for our hearts. It's just good all the way around. I really don't think you can do too much walking. You can't do too little either. Well, you can, but if you're doing nothing, 10 minutes is just amazing. So here's how we get in our walking. If you're not a walker, you don't like, or if you're not a weightlifter, if I can't convince you to lift weights, at least walk. It really is. It is the best available exercise out there. I do encourage you, if you think you're going to take it up and do it quite a bit, do invest in a good pair of shoes for it. But no, it's amazing. I do it every day with Jax. It makes him a happy boy. It makes me a happy girl. Life is happy around here. What's not to like about it? You get to see all kinds of cool things. How much do you need? So I heard about this study the other day, and so I kind of had to look it up myself. I just had to. So just to share some stats for my friends who think 10 minutes isn't enough, people who got just 10 to 59 minutes of light to moderate intensity physical activity per week, 10 minutes a week, had an 18% lower risk of early death than somebody who sits all the time. So if you're doing nothing and all you can manage to get out in a week is 10 minutes, you've just increased your chance of living a little longer, 18%. Now, I encourage you to do much more than that. But seriously, if that's where you can start there. It gets better, 60 to 49 minutes. It goes up to 22%. The American Council on Exercise and the US government, or whatever, they say to get 150 minutes, that's what's that, for 30 minutes a day or something, you jump up to 31% lower risk. It's just amazing. And exercise, any exercise, it's been shown to improve your heart. It helps prevent obesity, which is now the #1 cause of people going into assisted living. And it can actually decrease your chance of cancer. Now I'm going to make the case for weightlifting. So back in the day, in my industry, my brothers and sisters in the weightlifting world, we have done ourselves no favor, because what do we think of people lifting weights? We usually think, for the men, we think meatheads, they're dumb, and that's how they were portrayed back in the day. Women, we think shallow. Too many of them are out there just, bending over, showing their butts on social. So we think shallow, selling sex, all that. When strength training is the #1 exercise to do if you want to prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. So healthy muscles make a healthy mind. And Doesn't have to be that much. There's very, very encouraging information out there that says as little as doing 1 to 2 strength training exercises a day is enough to help ward that off. That's 10 minutes. 10 minutes, my friends. And if you have ever dealt with anybody who's had dementia or Alzheimer's, it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all. And it is something if there is something you can do in 10 minutes at a day, come on, we can find 10 minutes. If you can't find 10 minutes, call me. I'll go through your schedule. We'll find 10 minutes. You may not feel like doing the 10 minutes, but we all have 10 minutes. And so I'm giving a talk tomorrow. So this kind of is coming out of that talk, but and I kind of mentioned it. We've become so self-centered, we forget about the people around us and how our actions affect others. We really do. My husband I had Randy looking through my slides, and I worded one. He goes, "I don't like this wording." I said, "I do." Who and how we are. How are we? How are we to ourselves? How are we to others? It matters. It really, really does. And I truly, I don't want to cry, but it just makes us better people to be fit. I posted, I think on Instagram, I don't think I put it on Facebook yet, but the definition of fitness is not super lean. It's not 6-pack. It is not skinny. What it is, it's the ability to live, to have energy, to be a good person. That is fitness. And that is what I'm here to promote to you all. And don't let a lot of this crap you're about to see in the next few months lure you down the shiny road. You can, but I don't think it's the best. I don't think in the end it's going to make you happy. So my takeaways from today, eat the good stuff. Think about saying no to the generic stuff. Think of wearing something that invokes some values in you to just be a better person. Exercise, move your body. Movement is life. My father died because COVID cut out the gyms, and he stopped moving. And when you stop moving, you don't get to live. Movement is life. So move your bodies, choose a way to do it. And seriously, consider taking up strength training, because it will impact you more than just the beautiful muscles you get on your body. It will change the way you think about life. It will change the way you think about yourself. It just makes you a better person overall. It really does. And with that, I'm going to open up to questions before I start crying. Anybody got anything for me? I think, or just raise your hand, or and I can ask you to unmute, or you should be able to unmute yourselves if you got anything. Did anybody like it? Anybody enjoy it? Anybody get anything out of it? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, this is Kay. It was really great, Margie. It was great to hear you kind of go through your little spiel, and of course I want to hear more. But I'm a walker, and so I have some like hand weight kind of things that I think I'll start doing, like some arm, that kind of stuff. But I used to be able to drop. So I usually follow like a low carb, diet, but I love food, so if I allow myself to take that like one little bite of, something, I can't quit, so I know that about myself. So I try to just save like a day or whatever, because I can't stop. Once I get that taste, I'm like, oh my God. And it's not chips, it's the sweets like ice cream or stuff like that. But my question to you is, my body has changed so much in 3 years because I had a total hysterectomy. So I don't have any hormones, and I'm not on any artificial ones, but any tips in that regard as far as eating, because it really, I used to be able to just, as the holidays are approaching, I would, tone down a little bit and, cut some weight. And then, now I can't do that as easy. I mean, it's
It-
hard freaking work.
It's hard. I have a total hysterectomy. I have nothing left. He took out my appendix as a bonus.
Me
Yeah,
too.
so I feel your pain. It is harder because especially for us women. So what happens and when we enter into menopause is that where we store body fat, it changes to like our stomach. That's why we start to get that menopause belly. It happens to everybody. The principles of weight loss are the same though. It really is. When you see somebody selling a menopause diet, they're lying. It's a lie. There is no menopause diet. It's just harder. It just is. Metabolism's slow. We get more set in our ways. We're more tired.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if you get insomnia, but menopause gave me severe insomnia. Yeah, it is just harder, but the principles are the same. Now, as for those trigger foods, you may not like this. What works for a lot of people and what I call it, I actually learned this from one of my mentors. Her name's Casey Jo Orvidas. She did her PhD on why don't we do the things we know we're supposed to do. She's a really cool woman. But there's a thing called momentary, she calls it momentary, I call it temporary restriction. We just don't eat it for a while. And sometimes you do. I mean, I know a lot of people just say moderation's hard.
Yeah.
Moderation's hard. And I do believe there's some things that you may be better off abstaining from, just not having in the house and only. So like mine's ice cream. I'll take a picture of it. I actually put a barrier. Randy loves ice cream. So we have 3 gallons of ice cream in the refrigerator. I actually put a barrier in front of it so I can't see it. Out of sight, out of mind actually works.
Right.
Really. Seriously, like putting things on. I looked at our top shelf the other week, just out of curiosity. I found all kinds of chocolate and stuff up there. Totally forgot it was up there because
That's a great idea.
it is, and it really works. Sometimes, our brain plays tricks on us. Sometimes we got to play tricks right back on it. And I use every weapon imaginable. Our brains actually are wired to protect us. They think they're protecting us, but they're just messing with us.
Right.
But yeah, I use every trick in the book. I'll hide things. I put things behind barriers. And it does, unless you're at a point where you just really, really want it, because there are sometimes I want the ice cream, I go get the ice cream. And I just
Right.
know that day it's not going to be 1 serving, that it's going to be 2, maybe even 3. And that's okay as long as I get back on track. And that's the thing. So a lot of us, we blow it and we keep going. We have that, oh, screw it. I
Yeah.
blew it. I'll start again Monday. And we never. So yeah, sometimes we just have to play mind tricks. I'm gonna invite you to my group because I put some things in there that that aren't like out there. And we can talk.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
there's all kind.
My
I'm sorry.
other question was, do you believe in quitting like eating by a certain time at night? Because I usually like to have no, you don't think that makes a difference?
No, it's a myth, but it can work, because what do we eat at night? Junk, mostly. We're not getting out the bowl of broccoli at night.
Right.
So calories count. 100 calories is the same in the morning as it is in night. Now, the way it does work is if you say at 7 p.m. I'm done, 6 p.m. I'm done, it's going to keep you from. So it's one of those, it works, but not for the reason everybody says it does.
Right. It's just more of
Because
a restriction. Yeah.
Yeah. And every diet is a restriction. Every single diet is a restriction of some sort. It is, because you're restricting calories. So when you see these people, diet without restriction,
Yeah.
it's a lie, because you have to restrict calories to be in a deficit. So just keep mindful of that. We got 2 minutes. Any other questions? I want to thank you all for coming. Here is my ask. if you like this, just tell somebody that I gave a really good talk here, and that is your way to thank me, because it takes a lot of time to put these things together, like hours. So that is my ask, is that you just share that I gave you something useful to use. How's that sound? Is that fair? Thumbs up? Cool. And don't be afraid to reach out, Julie. You know, I'll hop on a Zoom. You know, I'm here to help. And none of this stuff I talked about, feel free to share it. It's none of this is proprietary. This has been around forever. So I'd rather have good information out there than bad. So, but seriously, it would help me out, because that's how I get my name out, is word of mouth. I don't advertise. I'm a one-woman show. I'm self-funded. So yeah, so that would be a great thanks to me. And with that, I'm gonna let you all go. Thank you for coming.
Thank
Y'all know
you.
where to
Thanks,
find
Margie.
me. Thank you guys. Thanks for coming. And I'm going to send out the recording. I said I wasn't going to, but I'm going to send out the recording. So like you can come back and consult if there's something like you missed or something you want to see again.
That
Sound
would be
good?
great. All right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.